Hello viewers, I am C. Sri Lakshmi, TGT Social Studies from MRDT, working for Material Research and Development team. Today here to give my presentation. In this corona crisis, we are all staying at home to be safe, isn't it? So we are continuously supplied with fruits and vegetables and other necessities which are compulsory, to run the kitchen, to have our meals. So from where do we get all these things in this difficult times? That means people are at work, who are producing food are at work, isn't it? So let us start our today's session with a short anecdote. Once a man asked Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, "What is the culture of India?" He replied, "Culture of India is agriculture." So, in the same way, Lal Bahadur Shastri ji also strongly believes that the progress of the nation is in the hands of two people. They are soldier and farmer. Soldier, one who stays at the border of the country all the time, protecting us, and the one who is in the field, irrespective of the weather conditions, working hard to feed all of us. So these two people are very important for the progress of the nation. So you might have heard or read from the newspapers about Colonel Ashutosh Sharma and his team, which has come into the newspaper recently. So people sacrifice lives at borders to keep us all safe, secured and happy. We need to salute them, right? And farmers too are working in the fields to supply us with needed food materials in this tough period. So highlighting the importance of the soldier and farmer, Lal Bahadur Shastri ji said, "Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan." Kisan in Hindi means farmer. So with this short anecdote, we move into our today's topic, that is agriculture. Agriculture in India and trade in agriculture is our today's topic. So let's begin with the word agriculture. The word agriculture is derived from Latin language agri, which means soil, and culture means cultivation. So the word agriculture stands for cultivating various crops and rearing livestock. So please look at the slide here. Agriculture stands for cultivating crops and rearing livestock. So why do we need to learn about agriculture? Agriculture is very important for our economy. So you have learned in your earlier session about gross domestic product. I repeat the meaning of that for your convenience now. Gross domestic product is the total value of the goods produced and the services provided in a country in 1 year. So 18.5% of GDP is provided by agriculture. So agriculture is very important for a nation like ours. And around 65% of population are involved in various jobs which are related to this particular sector, and this is the single largest private sector occupation, wherein lots of people are involved in producing, marketing and other things. So it is also backbone of our country, because other sectors also need the support from agricultural sector. That means different industries depend on raw material on agriculture for the production, for producing or manufacturing various goods. So what are the different types of crops we see in our country? The types of crops can be majorly categorized into 4. They are food crops, cash crops, plantation crops and horticulture crops. So food crops are mainly rice, wheat, maize, millets and pulses. Cash crops are cotton, jute, sugarcane, tobacco and oil seeds. Plantation crops are tea, coffee, coconut and rubber. Horticultural crops are fruits and vegetables. So the word horticulture here might be attracting your attention because it matches with the word agriculture. Let me add some more words for your knowledge, which are similar to the word agriculture. Pisciculture, rearing of fish. Sericulture, rearing of silkworms. Apiculture, rearing of bees. And horticulture, which is in the slide now, growing fruits and vegetables. Hope you have liked these words. So, whenever you come across these words, now you know their meanings. And one more important point to mention here is about cotton and jute. These two are the crops which are also called fiber crops, because different types of cloth and other material, fibrous materials are made using these two crops, cotton and jute. So, where do these crops where do we grow these crops? So, it is obviously in the soil. About soil we have discussed in our earlier class. Hope you all remember the meaning of the soil. So, soil is a mixture of organic material, sand, silt, clay and weathered rock material. So, in one word it is rock material plus organic material. So, soils are not similar. We have also learnt in our earlier class that the nature of the soil depends on the parent rock, the bedrock and the climatic conditions and relief features. So, there are different types of soils. It will be convenient for you to understand these types before we look at their locations. So, the first and important one is alluvial soil. So, alluvial soil is the soil majorly seen. Around 43% of soil seen in India is alluvial soil. It is deposited by rivers and it is highly fertile soil. Crops like paddy and all are grown in this alluvial soil. They are highly fertile because they are sand and silt and many other things are deposited by the flowing rivers. So, the second one is black soil. This soil is also important because of its high water retention capacity. So, more water can be retained in this soil and it swells and bulges when the water is taken inside. It gets smoothened and it's sticky too when it gets wet. And once dried, it becomes shrinked in nature. To look it appears as if it is totally shrinked. So, the third one is red soil. So, as the name suggests, it is red in color and the reason is red oxide that is present in that rock material. Fourth one is laterite soils. So, laterite soils derive their name from the word later, which means brick, and these soils are found in the regions with high rainfall and high temperatures. So, next one is mountainous soil. This is the soil which is seen in the mountainous regions. This is also highly fertile soil, and arid soils, which means dry soils. These soils are seen in the desert like regions. These soils are not so they do not contain humus, they have less water retention capacity and they are moved away by winds, they are deposited by winds. So, these are the types of soils. Now, let us see the distribution of the different types of soils in our country with the help of a map. I suggest you children to understand the nature and the structure instead of by hearting the names of the areas in which the soils are present. For example, if once we understand what the type of soil is, what is its characteristic, then we can better understand where it can be available. Like, let us see from the map now. This dark green region is mountainous soil. Okay, here in the northern region Sikkim and some parts of Arunachal Pradesh, you can see mountainous soil. So here light green color, you can see alluvial soil. Where is it mostly found? It is seen in Gangetic Plain, Brahmaputra Plain and the plains in southern rivers. So here in southern region also, where the river plains are located, you can see the alluvial soil tracts. And red soil you can see more in southern region and southeast region here. Even the northeastern region, the area of Seven Sisters, we have majorly this red soil. So the next one being laterite soil. So as mentioned, laterite soils are seen in the areas with high rainfall and high temperatures. You can see it in here southwest region and little region over southeast here and here. So now arid soil can be seen in desert region here near Rajasthan. Black soil can be seen in the central lands, some of the southern region and some areas of Gujarat here. So let's see now which type of soil is good to grow which crop. Okay, so alluvial soil is good to grow wheat, rice, maize, pulses, oilseeds, etc. And black soil is very good to grow cotton. Red soil is convenient to grow wheat, cotton, pulses, tobacco, oilseeds, potato. Laterite soil is good to grow rice, ragi, sugarcane and cashew nuts. Desert soil is good to grow date palms and mountainous soil is good to grow tea, coffee and tropical fruits. So you have now understood how different types of soils are and how different types of crops are grown on these soils. So are these crops grown all through the year? No, there are certain cropping seasons in our country. Let's see what they are. The cropping seasons in India are mainly three: Rabi, Kharif and Zaid. So Rabi is the cropping season from November to March and wheat, mustard, tobacco, gram are some of the crops grown in this season. Kharif is the second important season which is from June to October usually, and rice, maize, millet, cotton, jute and sugarcane are some of the crops grown in this particular season. Zaid is the short season in December and January and in August and September. So December and January we call that short season as Zaid Rabi, and August and September we call that short season as Zaid Kharif. Fruits and vegetables are grown usually in this Zaid season like watermelon, muskmelon, cucumber, bitter gourd, etc. In Telangana, we have recently renamed these cropping seasons as per our mother tongue. Rabi is named Yasangi, Kharif is named as Vahanakalam and Zaid is named as Kattera. In Telangana, as lot of plenty of water is not available, in many regions this Zaid crop is not grown. So the name as suggests Kattera, so that will be the plain period, the cropless period for most of the fields. Where the water is in abundance, some of the fruits and vegetables are grown. So what is the pattern of growing all these different types of crops? Is the pattern same, or are there any types of farming? Yes, the types of farming are different. Mainly there are three types of farming. They are primitive subsistence farming, intensive subsistence farming and commercial farming. So let's look at the details of these types of farming here. So primitive subsistence farming is also called slash and burn agriculture. I will tell you why. So this agriculture is practiced on small patches of land and they depend mostly on monsoon. they don't use much machinery here. Some primitive tools are used, and they depend mostly on natural fertility of the soil. They don't use much manures and fertilizers. And once the harvest is done, they after taking the harvest, they just burn the land and let the ash gets mixed into the soil for some time. They let the soil regain its fertility. So that's why it's also called slash and burn agriculture. So this is mainly practiced by nomad people. That means people who keep on moving from one place to another. So these days this cultivation is not much practiced, but in olden days, when in tribal people, nomad people mostly practice this type of cultivation. So this has got different names in North India and Southern India. North India it is called jham cultivation, and in South India it is called podu. In Odisha, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Second type is intensive subsistence farming. So this is the type in which the agricultural holdings are small again, but they use manures and some fertilizers. Mostly organic manure is used, and much of the hand labor is put in, and paddy and other food crops are grown in this particular cultivation. So the third one being, so intensive subsistence farming is aimed at again small holdings. Please remember this point. Moving on to third one, it is commercial farming. Commercial, as the name suggests, it is mostly for business purposes, for commercial purposes. So here the land is large and the capital put is also large. Much number of labor are involved in agriculture, and large machinery is also put into use. They use even fertilizers and manures more in quantities. So if grains are cultivated, we call it commercial grain farming. If farming along with rearing livestock, that means rearing cattle, is practiced, we call it mixed farming. And if plantations are laid, that means tea, coffee, as we learnt earlier in the earlier subtopic. So if such plants are cultivated in commercial farming, we call them plantation commercial farming. So these are the different types of farming. You can see in the slide two pictures. One is speaking about jham farming. You can see the crop here after harvest is burnt. And second picture is suggesting this commercial farming. So even it is picturized, handfuls of coins are there in the person's hand. So commercial farming, see how large land tracts are put in this practice, in this particular cultivation. So where are different crops grown in our country? So that's the next subtopic. Let's look at the slide and see which crop is cultivated in which region. As I have told you already that growing crops is based on the type of soil available and the climatic conditions. So it does not mean that rice is grown only in the states mentioned here, but in these states it's grown in larger quantities. So let's have a look at the different crops and the states in which they are grown. So West Bengal, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, we see rice is grown in large quantities. So in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, where there is Godavari Krishna basin, paddy is cultivated a lot, that means rice is cultivated a lot, and it has got a special title called Rice Bowl of India. Okay, and wheat is cultivated in Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana and Maharashtra. Millets are cultivated in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh and Andhra Pradesh. Tea is cultivated in Assam, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Coffee is cultivated in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Cotton is grown in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. So here is a long list again. So in last class I gave you a useful technique called mnemonic. Hope many have practiced the technique with other subjects too. I have one more technique to share with you all today. So that is chunking. So this works on a principle called associative memory. Okay, let me explain it for you. Let's look at the first list. Okay, West Bengal, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana are the names. So we have to remember these names. So we can do it in this particular way. Let's make some pairs of these names. Pairing in such a way that pair should be done based on some common point between them, like Andhra Pradesh and Telangana are Telugu speaking states. So you can make them a pair, or you can pair them as Uttar Pradesh and Andhra Pradesh. Both have Pradesh common in them, or so it is based on your own creativity. You can just pair two of them and learn them together. Okay, let's take another list, for example. I mean the next list, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana and Maharashtra. You can pair Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra because both start with M, or you can pair Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh because they have Pradesh in common, or you can pair Punjab and Haryana because they share same capital, Chandigarh. So in that way, based on some common point, you can pair two things and remember them easily and well. So let me explain you the importance of this particular technique. You have learned rhymes in your young age. Okay, so when somebody says twinkle twinkle, you immediately recall little star, isn't it? So why so? You have not practiced that all these days, but still you remember, because this is the technique that works in memorizing it, associative memory. So twinkle twinkle is one set and little star is one set. So both are linked and practiced, and so you remember them easily forever. So this is one of the memory techniques which can help you in memorizing the lists. But please try to use them with good common points, so that the memorization can be easily as well as useful. It's not that you just by heart the things like that. Please, as I told you about while explaining about the different types of soils, try to understand the basic concept behind them, and then you try to memorize. It will be easy for you, and you will not be able to forget it later. So let's move on to the next subtopic, that is market. Okay, so we have now understood that farmers grow different types of crops and on different soils. So do they use all what they grow for themselves? No, they sell it. In olden days, things were sold in a different type of system called barter system. That means if somebody grows paddy, he used to go and exchange his paddy bag with somebody's say for example cotton or pulses or for milk, for whatever it is. So the exchange of things was done between among the people to get the things that they desired. So they used to give the things that they cultivated, and they used to take the things from other people. So this was the system, and this system is named as barter system. Okay, so but slowly markets have evolved. Money is designed, so people started selling things for money, and with money they started buying the things that they need. So here you can see the picture of weekly Santa. So this is one of the markets which everybody usually come across. So in one week in a day we have good markets in rural areas as well as urban areas. You might have seen one of such markets for sure. So different types of things are available there. There is one point here to speak about farmers. Okay, so many times see in India there are most of the farmers have small lands, and they are economically backward. They come from a poor background. So what happens? They take money from different people, hand loan givers or some mediators. They take money to start their cultivation, to start their agriculture. So once they get the harvest, these mediators or hand loan givers, they insist the farmers to sell the produce to them for lesser rates. So these people buy the harvest, buy the produce, and they spend some money on transport, and they send that for more prices in markets. So the hard work is done by farmer and the profit is gained by the mediator or the middle person or the hand loan giver. So to protect farmers from the clutches of such people, government has designed a market called Raitu Bazaar, wherein farmers can directly come and sell their produce at the at appropriate rates. So you might have also visited Raitu Bazaar, which is in your locality. So this weekly Santa was only once in a week, but this Raitu Bazaar has facilitated people to sell the perishable goods, particularly fruits and vegetables, immediately and get money for their livelihoods. So here not just about these fruits and vegetables, even other things that are produced by farmers are sold in agricultural market yards, maybe pulses, grain or cotton, chili, whatever it is. So such things are sold in big market yards, and government has set up a technique called minimum support price, so that farmers should not face losses because of this cultivation, and many times even government buys from them for minimum support price and stores the grain either to supply through PDS, which we will learn later in this session, or to have some stocks. Also farmers sell their produce to people who process it. For the processing industries, farmers sell their produce so that they gain benefits. So is this market system only for local purposes? No, the trade goes on between different states also. As we have seen, in some of the states some of the things are grown, so the exchange of things takes place between the states, and not just between the states, internationally also. So we have international trade too. So international trade is not a new thing for us. So British people entered our land for the same purpose, for the purpose of trade, if we remember well. So trade was carried out on seas on those days. So in the same way, now we have a global market after globalization. So let's see some details about Indian agricultural exports. So here is a graph depicting the details, the data about Indian agricultural exports. So this is put here, the data is put in the form of $1 billion as per the global market. So in 2014-15, our exports value was $38.7 billion. In 2015-16, 32.1. In 2016-17, 33.8. In 2017-18, 38.2. And in 2018-19, 38.5. In 2019-20, for the period of 4 months up to April, it was 8.7. You can notice some ups and downs in the graph here. What could be the reason? Why can't they export the same thing or maybe more than that to get money? So these exports are carried out on the basis of demand, supply, price of the good, quality of the good, necessity and international relations between the nations, and so many things. Food security is also one of the most important aspect here. Okay. In the same way, you can also see the share of agricultural sector in total exports. Out of all the exports done from our country, the percentage of agricultural exports is 12.07 in 2016-17, 12.66% in 2017-18, 11.76% in 2018-19. Here also you can see that it is reduced here. So as I told you, there are different aspects that play the role in these exports. So for the year 2018-19, 2.17 lakh crore exports were done. 2.17 lakh crore worth exports were done, and 1.37 lakh crore worth imports were brought. So 2.15% is the percentage of the world's agricultural trade. That means India's agricultural export trade accounts to 2.15% of the whole world's exports. So this is some of the data which can help us to understand where do we stand in exports, particularly the agricultural exports. hope you all understood. So, though India has good fame, I mean maybe for its quality of cotton and all. So, here it is also important to know what are the major things that are exported from our country. So, as I was telling you about the British people who came to India, so in those times two major things were cotton and spices, if you are able to recollect. So, now major exports are basmati rice, spices, sugar, cotton and castor oil. So, these are the exports done to various countries. Some of the important export destinations, the countries which take from us are United States, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Nepal and Bangladesh. Much exports are done to these countries. So, this is the whole story of exports that are done by our country, agricultural exports. So, let us move on to the next subtopic, that is though we have a lot of fame in the world agricultural maybe export sector or agricultural sector as a whole, we in India we can see, as I told you just now, many farmers are from poor economic background. So, what are their problems? So, what is practically happening with them? Let us have a look at it. So, you can see from the screen that the problems of small farmers are listed here. The first one being small land holdings. So, the scenario behind this small land holdings may be like if maybe for suppose your own grandfather, he had some 4 acres of land, he distributed 2 acres to your father and 2 acres to your father's elder or a younger brother. So, your father now takes the 2 acres, he cultivates for long period and then he hands over the 2 acres, 1 acre to you and 1 acre to your brother maybe. So, for example sake I have been telling you. So, in this way the land is getting smaller and smaller and smaller as it is passing on from for the next generations. So, this is the reason behind most of the small land holdings of the farmers. So, when we speak about the problem, we should speak about the solution too, right. So, they can collectively farm, I mean they can do farming together. Some small holdings can be collectively cultivated to escape from the losses because of these small land holdings. So, this is one of the ideas for that. And the quality of seeds. So, most of the times these people being poor, they are unable to afford good quality of seeds and they even sometimes do not get in the markets that proper quality of seeds. And manures, fertilizers and pesticides, these are also a costly affair for them to buy. So, facing they face difficulty in purchasing the required manure or fertilizer and pesticide too, and lack of proper irrigation facilities. So, as they have small land holding, they cannot afford having their own pump set or maybe, and many of them depend on rains for that. You can see in the picture, this poor farmer is praying God to give rain. He is looking at the sky and praying for the rain. So, lack of mechanization is another reason. They cannot afford machines. So, they struggle a lot, strive a lot to till the land or maybe sowing the seeds or any such agricultural activity. And lack of storage facilities. Once with great difficulty they get the produce in their hands, but they do not have proper facility to store the produce and wait till the price comes up. So, they have to sell immediately to the persons nearby. So, maybe to the mediators or hand loan givers, as we discussed just now. So, they have to they are insisted to sell to the people nearby, which is again a loss to them, and a lack of marketing facilities. Sometimes even when markets are available, they don't afford to take their produce to the markets. In such poor situation, these small farmers are. So, does government do anything to benefit them, to help them? Yes. Governments always try to take care of farmers. They implement many plans, schemes to help farmers and to help them come out of the clutches of poverty. So, let us see about a scheme called Raitu Bandhu, which is implemented by our present state government. So, as per this scheme, farmers are given financial aid support 4,000 per acre per season. That means a farmer will be getting 8,000 rupees per year to carry out the agricultural activity. So, it's great, isn't it? And even this passbook system has also been initiated, because many times there are so many disputes among the farmers regarding the possession of land. So, this has also been initiated to settle such disputes and to avoid them. So, one more important step taken by our state government is the prestigious Kaleshwaram project. So, this project will be able to cater all the needs of 20 districts around for the drinking water as well as water for irrigation. So, once it is completed, it is going to make even world record in the month of July once it completely it gets started. So, its capacity is around 145 TMC, what we call 1000 million cubic feet. So, that much capacity of holding water is credited to this particular project. So, not just this, even Mission Kakatiya is, you might have heard about this project too. So, this is also an initiation taken to help farmers to get water for irrigation from the tanks. So, as the name suggests, Kakatiyas were the kings who dug so many good number of tanks all through their kingdom, so the present Telangana state mostly. So, most of the tanks are not into use now. So, the renovation of tanks is the main idea of the program Mission Kakatiya, which is being done. So, the target is around 46,000 tanks. So, even state government takes a step as per the necessities, like we have corona crisis now. So, in the month of March, April, farmers were ready with their harvest. So, government is establishing purchasing points in villages to help the farmers not to get into the losses. So, not just state government, central government also always thinks of farmers and tries to help them. So, we can see some schemes from central government. So, one is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme. So, this is a scheme for small farmers particularly who have land less than 2 hectares. So, 6,000 years per annum, 6,000 rupees per annum is the financial aid given to them as a Samman Nidhi, the name suggests. So, many farmers are getting benefit out of it, and even other initiatives with the title Farm to Fork are also being implemented. So, one is organic farming to encourage farming activity without much pesticides and fertilizers, and soil health card to help the farmers understand the soil structure, nutrients, and to give timely guidance to them for getting good harvest. And Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, Sinchai means irrigation. So, here also we can see with minimum water how cultivation can be done. So, in this way they are guided. Even fertilizers, natural fertilizers. So, neem is used as natural fertilizers to reduce or arrest underground contamination of urea, and cold storage and food processing is another facility given to them. So, it helps them to wait till they get good prices. And electronic national agriculture market is another scheme. So, where they have initiated an electronic platform through which they can sell their produce, and Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So this is insurance for fields. So in case of natural calamities or pests or fire accidents, they can claim insurance for their crop. So central government also always wants farmers to be happy, and they want to aid farmers whenever they are in trouble. Even central government has released first installment of fund in the month of April 2000, as I was telling you, that Kisan Samman Nidhi for farmers particularly. So we have to speak about a revolution when we are speaking about agriculture. Okay, so that is Green Revolution. So this dates back to 1950 and 1965. So when India attained independence, so as I told you, most of the land holdings of Indian farmers are smaller in size. So there was a necessity of revolution. Food necessities were not properly met. Though Bakranangal Dam and Nagarjuna Sagar Dam were built, and though they appointed agriculture extension officers per every block, they could not meet the food necessities. So here we should take the name of a great person, Mr. M.S. Swaminathan, who planned Green Revolution in India. At the same time, we must also know one more person's name. He is Norman Borlaug, who gave this idea of Green Revolution internationally. So internationally he is called a father of Green Revolution, but in India it is initiated by Mr. Swaminathan. So what is this Green Revolution? Starting from seeds, high yielding variety seeds, so better irrigation facilities and strategies, use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides as per the necessity, mechanization, that means use of machines to get the jobs done quickly and easily. These are some of the strategies of Green Revolution. So when all these collectively we give the term Green Revolution. So as I told you, it dates back to 1950 and 1965. Exactly in 1965, this Green Revolution was started in our country. So you can see on the slide here, before Green Revolution, the agricultural practices were like this, manual most of the times, and the harvest was also not so good. And after Green Revolution, you can see mechanization has been done, and the crop is better than earlier. So what are the benefits of Green Revolution? Yes, mainly the main motto of Green Revolution, food necessities were met. So India became self-sufficient. So as per the data, per unit farm, the produce before Green Revolution and after Green Revolution was much varied. Nearly 30% more produce was given after Green Revolution. Such was the benefit. So even availability of food materials and even prices of the food materials also has come down with the help of this particular Green Revolution. So every coin has another side, right? So there were some disadvantages also because of Green Revolution. Let's see what they are. So more fertilizers and pesticides is the first one, so which we all now complain that it's not good for health, and susceptibility to pests and diseases. So they use some pesticide and the crop is now prone to some other type of pests. So this is again a problem, and less benefit for small farmers. So as I was trying to explain you the grievances of small farmers, they could not get much benefit out of this Green Revolution, and the new varieties were inferior in taste. That means the original varieties were different, and the yield, the crop that is grown from HYV varieties is different. The taste is not as the original taste is. That means this one is inferior, lesser in taste. And rural unemployment, this is again a very big problem. So as mechanization has been done, so many people work on farmlands, right? So all those people had to move to cities, they had to migrate from villages to cities. So presently in corona crisis also, the worst sufferers are those migrant laborers. So they are unable to go to their homes due to lockdown. They don't have homes here. They are with great difficulty they are getting something to eat. So those people are the worst sufferers now, these migrant laborers. Daily you might be looking at the news about these migrant laborers. So these are the disadvantages of green revolution. Then what is the solution? Solution is again technology. So now the technology is much advanced, and in agriculture it has been used always as per the changing necessities. Let's see how the technology is helping to overcome these problems. So first aim being the higher crop production. To mention here, by 2050 our population may reach at around 10 billion. So if we follow the processes what we are following now, we will not be in a position to feed all those people. That's why definitely we have to use technology and bring some change to increase the crop production. So less use of water, fertilizers and pesticides. So as we were discussing, there are health problems occurring because of these. So with less use of water and less use of these, agriculture is being planned, and less prices of food products. So when these things are not used, automatically food products price will also be lessened, and less impact on natural ecosystem. So man has been seriously able to understand the problems once the environment is disturbed. So everywhere there is a cry to save environment. So strategies are being planned with the help of technology to support the natural ecosystem, I mean without disturbing it, carrying out agriculture, and increased worker safety. So instead of those fertilizers and pesticides which may cause some harm to the farmers while using them, so safe things are put into use with the help of technology. So these are some of the ideas with which technology can be imbibed into the agricultural practices to bring out more benefits. So the last subtopic of our today's topic is food security. So what does this mean? As we were discussing just now, if the situation of 2050, if the population is more, we will not be able to provide food for all. So that situation is a question for food security. I was also quoting about food security while speaking about exports, right? So what do you mean by food security? Here we can remember 3 terms easily to understand this particular concept, and those 3 terms are availability, accessibility and affordability. Okay, availability, accessibility and affordability. Availability means the stocks must be available for particularly for food purposes. Okay, and accessibility is the condition wherein people must be able to be in a situation to go and to reach them, to purchase them. So as it's happening now in this tough corona crisis, they are trying to provide food material only. You can see the ration shops, I mean the general stores and vegetable stores, only these things are open. So they are trying to make food materials accessible to all the people, in other words. So accessibility means it should be it should be nearer to the people so that they can go and buy them. And affordability, they should be of such cost that people should be able to buy them. So all categories, rich people, poor people and also they should see that they should take care that the prices are affordable to all the people. So in single term, food for all the people in all the times is called food security. So what does government do to provide food security? What does this government do to provide food security? Let's see some of the strategies adopted. The first one being PDS, Public Distribution System. So in other words, we call them ration shops, where the government makes sees that the food materials are available to the poor people, some things at free of cost, and or either for lesser amounts, lesser prices. Okay, and the next picture you can see here is about midday meal scheme. So this is a scheme planned to provide nutritious food to the school going children. Okay, so with this midday meal scheme, there were 3 benefits, triple bonanza. Okay, what is that? Children were getting nutritious food, and enrollments of the school was improved, and even many people under this scheme were getting employment, particularly people from disadvantaged groups. So there were 3 benefits out of this midday meal scheme. And here this picture speaks about ICDS, Integrated Child Development Service Scheme. So here we can see the benefits are done to the pregnant, lactating mothers, and even younger kids up to 6 years age. So nutritious food is given to them, and their education is also taken care of. The 4th picture you can see is about FCI, Food Corporation of India. Buffer stocks are always maintained in Food Corporation of India so that in cases in times of emergency they can use them. Extra stocks are available here. So these are some of the strategies used to provide food security to all the people. So once we speak about food security, you can easily remember the 3 concepts here with the help of a technique, A cube. Okay, availability, accessibility, and affordability. Please remember these terms because they are important to understand what is food security. So food security, as we have discussed now, is really very important issue. We all need to understand its importance. So in other words, there are people who die of hunger even today. You will be surprised to know the number. Around 25,000 people die every day of hunger throughout the world, even today. So it accounts to around 9 lakh people per annum. So we must all think seriously about one particular issue, that is not wasting food. Yes, each grain that we get in our plate is not simply a grain. Okay, it has the energy of air in it, water in it, sunlight in it, the farmer's hard work, soil strength in it, farmer's hard work in it, your father's hard work in earning that grain, your mother's hard work in cooking that grain, and so many things are there. Grain is not simply a grain, and you should feel happy and lucky. You should feel that you are blessed to have it in your plate. So I request all the children watching this program, and even adults for that matter. So I request all the children and adults watching this program very particularly not to waste food material, because food, as I told you just now, grain is not simply a grain. It's hard work of the nature, and it's hard work of many people who made it possible to reach that grain into our plate. So with this request, I conclude the topic here. So in this class we have learnt, let us recall what we have learnt. We have learnt what is agriculture, types of crops, types of soils, distribution of soils, and what are exports, how things are exported, what are the major exports of our country, and what is the world export situation, and the help done by state governments and central governments, and food security. So it's time for you to take the project work. Please note down, write a report on Kaleshwaram lift irrigation project. Write a report on Kaleshwaram lift irrigation project. Make a project on types of soils, crops grown, technology used, and marketing facilities, in your village. I repeat, make a project on types of soils, crops grown, technology used, and marketing facilities in your village. If you are staying in urban areas, you can get the data over the phones from your relatives or friends who are staying in rural areas. And I thank Telangana state government, Telangana Tribal Welfare Residential Educational Institutions, Telangana Social Welfare Residential Educational Institutions for providing us an opportunity to be with the students in this particular corona crisis. I thank TSAT people for patiently recording this, and I thank all the viewers for being with me. Thank you all once again.